Time doesn't exist, at least not in the way you think it does. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like if this kind of mind-bending content fascinates you. Now, let's dive into one of the strangest truths hidden beneath the surface of reality. For most of our lives, we imagine time as a straight line, past behind us, present happening now, and future waiting ahead. But what if this entire structure is an illusion created by our brain? What if time is not a river we travel through, but a dimension we generate internally? Modern physics, ancient philosophy, neuroscience, and even cutting-edge cosmology are converging on a radical idea. Time might not be a fundamental part of the universe at all. Instead, it might be a byproduct, an interpretation, a convenient story our minds tell to make sense of existence. To understand this, imagine taking a book and flipping rapidly through its pages. Each page is still, complete, unmoving. Yet when you turn them quickly enough, you experience motion, continuity, and narrative. Your consciousness does the same thing. It stitches together discrete moments and creates the illusion of flow. Einstein famously said, "The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." He meant that all moments exist simultaneously in something called the block universe, a four-dimensional structure where every event in time is already laid out, like frames of a film strip. From this perspective, nothing is truly becoming. Things simply are. But here's the twist. Your brain cannot process reality this way. It needs order, direction, and sequence. Otherwise, you wouldn't survive a single day. So it constructs a mental timeline, gives you the feeling of movement, and calls it time passing. Yet behind this sensation lies a deep and unsettling truth. There is no universal clock ticking anywhere in the cosmos. Quantum experiments show that at the smallest scales, events do not follow a strict sequence. Particles can behave as if the future influences the past, or as if time doesn't have a preferred direction at all. And if time isn't fundamental, then your memories, your sense of aging, and even the story you call your life may be far less linear than you think. If time isn't fundamental, then what exactly is happening from moment to moment? One answer comes from neuroscience. Your brain is not recording reality, it is predicting it. Every second, your mind generates a model of what it expects to happen next and updates it only when the prediction fails. In other words, your experience of now is a controlled hallucination, anchored to just enough sensory input to feel real. This prediction engine runs slightly behind the physical world. What you call the present moment is actually a memory, a reconstruction occurring a fraction of a second after events have already happened. You never experience reality directly. You experience a delayed rendering of it. So if the present is a memory, the past is a stored hallucination, and the future is a prediction. Where does time actually exist? Many scientists argue that time is not something we move through. It is something our consciousness creates to organize change. Without consciousness, the universe would still evolve, but not in a way that requires a before or after. Those concepts belong solely to minds like ours. But physics takes this even further. At the quantum level, processes do not unfold smoothly. They jump, fluctuate, and occur without a defined temporal order. Some interpretations even suggest that particles do not have a past until they are measured. that history itself is written backward from the present. This leads to a staggering possibility. Time might emerge only when information becomes meaningful to an observer. The universe could be timeless at its core, a static web of relationships activated only when consciousness interacts with it. If that sounds abstract, think of a video game. The world doesn't exist until the player looks at it. The environment loads instantly around them. Your reality might operate in a similar way. Time loads only where consciousness focuses. The implications are enormous. If time doesn't fundamentally exist, then your past isn't fixed. It's reconstructed every time you remember it. Memory is not a recording. It's a creative act, influenced by who you are today. Your future isn't a distant place you're moving toward. It's a field of possibilities collapsing into form based on decisions, perceptions, and internal models. Suddenly, the idea that you are stuck in your timeline becomes meaningless. If time is an illusion, then so is the prison you think it puts you in. And if time doesn't exist, what does that say about you, the one experiencing this unfolding moment? If time is an illusion constructed by the mind, then identity becomes an illusion along with it. Think about it. Who are you without a past to define you or a future to move toward? Your sense of self depends on continuity, a story you tell yourself about how things were and who you are becoming. But if time is not fundamental, then that story is not anchored in the structure of the universe. It's anchored in memory, and memory is unstable. Neuroscience shows that every time you recall a moment, you don't retrieve the original memory. You rewrite it. You recreate the past from fragments. You modify it with new emotions, new beliefs, and new interpretations. Your past is not fixed. It is a living construction. So who is the you that exists across time? A convenient fiction, a narrative pattern held together by habit, expectation, and biological need. Without linear time, there is no single continuous self, only a series of perceptions arising one after another, giving the illusion of a stable identity. But here's where things get even more unsettling. If the self is a construct and time is a construct, then your entire subjective reality may be a simulation generated by your own consciousness. Not in the computer simulation sense, but in the sense that your mind renders the world based on limited information, producing a coherent experience that may have little to do with the underlying reality. This is why mystics, physicists, and philosophers often converge on the same idea. Reality is not what it appears to be. It is far more fluid, far more malleable, far more dependent on the observer. Some quantum models propose that the universe is not a timeline, but a static block, all events coexisting at once, like frames of a film. Consciousness doesn't move through time. It selects slices of this block and experiences them sequentially, creating the illusion of flow. In that sense, you're not traveling from past to future. You're scanning reality the way a flashlight scans a dark room, illuminating one part at a time. The room was always there. You just weren't looking at it. So what does this mean for your life? It means you are not trapped by who you were yesterday. It means the future is not waiting for you. It is waiting to be chosen. And it means that your consciousness is far more powerful than you realize, shaping your experience of reality at every moment. If time doesn't exist, then the limits you think time imposes on you never existed either. If time doesn't exist, then change, what we call growth, aging, or progress, is not something that unfolds across a timeline. It is simply the mind shifting from one state of awareness to another. There is no before, no after, only different snapshots of consciousness. Think about aging. We assume we move from youth to adulthood to old age. But some physicists argue that all of these states coexist simultaneously in the greater structure of reality. Your young self, your present self, and your future self all exist at once, like pages in a book. You only experience one page at a time, so you believe the story is linear. But what if consciousness can, under certain conditions, flip between pages? Mystical experiences, déjà vu, altered states, or even moments of profound intuition might be glimpses of the mind stepping outside the illusion of linear time, seeing the book instead of the single page. This is why certain spiritual traditions claim that enlightenment is not something achieved over time. It is recognizing that time was never real to begin with. And modern physics supports this more than most people realize. Einstein himself said that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. To him, everything that has ever happened and everything that ever will happen is already woven into the fabric of space-time. So where does that leave free will? If all moments already exist, do you truly choose anything? Here's the paradox. You experience choice because consciousness interacts with this block of reality by selecting paths, not creating them from scratch, but choosing which ones to illuminate. In other words, free will is not the power to change the universe, but the power to change which version of the universe you experience. This interpretation aligns with many worlds theories, simulation theories, and mystical philosophies alike. It means you are not a passive traveler along a rigid timeline. You are the observer that collapses possibilities into experience. You are the lens through which reality manifests. So when you worry about the future, remember, the future is not ahead of you. It is beside you, behind you, around you. An infinite field of possibilities waiting for your awareness to bring one of them into focus. And when you regret the past, remember, the past is not fixed. It can be reinterpreted, reframed, re-experienced from a new state of consciousness. Change your present awareness and the entire meaning of your past transforms with it. If time doesn't exist, then neither do limitations. What you call impossible may simply be a page in the book you haven't turned to yet. If time is not fundamental, then the universe itself may not be a story unfolding, but a structure existing, a structure where every moment, every possibility, every version of you is already present, waiting for consciousness to explore it. This idea, unsettling as it may be, reframes one of humanity's deepest fears, the fear of death. If time doesn't truly flow, then life doesn't truly end. Your birth, your childhood, your greatest memories, your final breath, all of them exist eternally in the block of space-time. You do not leave them behind. They remain forever accessible, like chapters permanently written into the fabric of the cosmos. And if consciousness is not bound to time, it may not be bound to the body in the way we think. Your awareness of existence could be a window that opens briefly onto this timeless structure, experiencing one narrow beam of its infinite light. This doesn't prove life after death, but it challenges the idea that death is a hard ending. If time is an illusion, then the boundary between life and death becomes an illusion too. But let's return to something more personal. If time doesn't exist, what should you do with your life? Paradoxically, this realization doesn't make life meaningless. It makes it more meaningful. Because without a past dragging you and without a future trapping you, the only thing that ever truly exists, the only thing that ever can exist, is the present moment. The present is not a point on a line. It is the canvas where consciousness paints reality. When you stop longing for the future and stop clinging to the past, you step into something timeless, something powerful, something free. This is why some of the greatest minds, from mystics to scientists, say that enlightenment is not about transcending the body, but about transcending time. Noticing that now is not a fleeting moment, but the eternal ground of experience. So the question you must ask is not, what will happen to me tomorrow? But rather, what am I choosing to experience right now? Because in a timeless universe, right now is the only place your power exists. And if this moment is all there is, how differently would you choose to live it? If time doesn't exist, then meaning is not something you discover in the distance. It's something you create in the present. There is no cosmic countdown, no race against the clock, no pressure to become something before time runs out. Because there is no out, there is only now. This doesn't mean you should abandon goals, dreams, or ambitions. It means you should stop believing they live in a place called the future. They exist here, in the only space where action is possible, the present moment. Every decision you make happens now. Every transformation begins now. Every version of yourself you hope to become already exists as a possibility, waiting for your awareness to choose it. This is why changing your life can happen instantly, not because the external world rearranges itself overnight, but because the internal world, the one that interprets, chooses, reacts, and perceives, shifts into a new mode of being. When you stop treating time as a master, you stop being its prisoner. You stop saying one day. You stop saying when the time is right. You realize the time has always been right because the time has always been the same. Now. Always now. But let's take this even deeper. If the present moment is the only reality, then everything you fear about the future is just imagination. Everything you regret about the past is interpretation, and everything you think you cannot change is simply a belief carried across imaginary timelines. This is not a spiritual claim, though many spiritual traditions echo it. It is a psychological truth, a philosophical insight, and a scientific possibility. Your experience of life is shaped not by time, but by attention. And attention happens only in the present. So what happens when you fully embrace timelessness? You stop rushing, you stop resisting, you stop postponing the life you want. Instead, you live with intention. You act from clarity rather than fear. You realize that every moment you've ever lived, and every moment you will ever live, is contained within the infinite structure of reality. And your consciousness is the light moving through it. And that brings us to the ultimate question. If time doesn't exist, if the past and future are illusions, if the self is a story told inside a single eternal moment, then what are you really? If time doesn't exist, then you are not a creature moving along a timeline. You are the awareness in which all moments appear. You are not the story. You are the field in which the story unfolds. This changes everything. It means you were never as limited as you believed. It means your potential was never trapped in a future you could not reach. It means your suffering was never sealed inside a past you could not escape. In a timeless universe, nothing is fixed unless you hold on to it. Nothing is lost unless you abandon it. And nothing is impossible unless you refuse to look in its direction. So ask yourself, who are you without the weight of your past? Who are you without the fear of your future? Who are you if the only thing that ever truly exists is the awareness listening to these words right now? Because that awareness is timeless. It has no age. It has no beginning. It has no end. It watches your life the way someone watches waves breaking on a shore, each moment rising and falling inside an endless ocean of presence. Most people never realize this. They cling to the illusion of time, rushing, regretting, worrying, planning, as if meaning could be found anywhere other than here. They live in memories that no longer exist and dreams that do not yet exist, while the only real moment slips through their fingers unnoticed. But you don't have to live that way. You can step out of the illusion anytime you choose. By returning attention to the present moment, you wake up from the trance of time and reconnect with the essence of who you truly are. Not a character trapped in a timeline, but the consciousness in which all timelines appear. So as we close this exploration, let me leave you with a question. If time doesn't exist, then what will you choose to do with the moment that does? If this video shifted your perspective even a little, remember to like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more deep explorations into the nature of reality, consciousness, and the mind. Your journey into the unknown is just beginning, and I'll be here to guide you through every step of it, even if those steps don't lead forward through time, but inward into the truth. If time doesn't exist, then perhaps the most profound illusion is not the ticking of clocks or the movement of days, but the belief that we are separate from the universe that contains us. Because in a timeless reality, separation loses meaning. Boundaries blur. The line between the observer and the observed begins to dissolve. Think about it. If every moment exists simultaneously, then every version of you, the child you were, the adult you are, the future you imagine, all coexist in a single cosmic tapestry, not as a sequence, but as expressions of one underlying awareness exploring itself from different angles. This means that the universe is not something you move through. The universe is something unfolding within you. Your perception, your consciousness, is the lens through which reality becomes meaningful. And this lens is not static. It shifts. It evolves. It expands as you awaken to the truth that what you call time was only a framework your mind used to navigate experience. Now imagine living your life without the pressure of time. Imagine creating without fear of deadlines, loving without fear of loss, growing without fear of aging. Imagine realizing that every moment you have ever lived still exists, and every moment you will ever live already exists, waiting for your awareness to meet it. From this vantage point, time becomes less a line and more a landscape your consciousness can explore, interpret, and shape. Some philosophers call this the eternal now. Others describe it as pure presence. Physicists describe it through the block universe, quantum timelessness, or the collapse of temporal order. But across all disciplines, the message is the same. Reality is not built from time. Reality is built from experience, and experience is always happening now. So the question becomes, if there is no such thing as too late, and no such thing as not yet, what would you choose to experience in this eternal moment? Would you keep reliving the same patterns? Would you keep carrying old stories? Would you keep fearing imaginary futures? Or would you recognize that you can step into a new version of yourself at any time? Because time isn't what changes you. Awareness does. As this video draws to a close, remember this. The universe may not give you more time, but it will always give you this moment, this breath, this awareness, this chance to choose who you are. And in a universe without time, that choice is the closest thing to eternity you will ever hold. So here we are, at the edge of the illusion. We began with a simple question: what if time doesn't exist? But now you understand that this question was never about clocks, calendars, or physics. It was always about you, your mind, your identity, your place in a reality far stranger and far more beautiful than you were ever taught to imagine. Because if time is not real, then neither are your limits. Neither are your fears. Neither are the stories you thought defined you. Look around for a moment. Wherever you are, everything you see, every sensation, every breath, all of it is happening in the only moment that has ever existed. The now, the eternal present, the stage upon which all of reality unfolds. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not running out of time. You are standing inside infinity, and you are free to choose who you are in this very moment. And that realization, that awakening, is more powerful than any scientific equation or philosophical theory. It means your consciousness is not a prisoner of a timeline. It is the author of the experience unfolding within it. So the question I leave you with is simple, yet terrifying. If time doesn't exist, what excuse do you have left for not becoming the person you truly want to be? If this journey opened your mind, if it made you question the world or yourself or the very fabric of reality, then this is just the beginning. There are questions far deeper, far stranger, far more transformative waiting for you, and we explore them right here on this channel. So before you leave this moment, this eternal moment, I'm going to ask you for 3 small actions that create a massive difference. 1. Subscribe to the channel. If you want to keep exploring the nature of reality, consciousness, and existence, this is where those journeys happen. 2. Leave a like. It tells the algorithm that videos like this matter, and it helps our community grow. 3. Comment your thoughts. Tell me what part of this blew your mind. Tell me what you want to explore next. Your comment helps shape the future of this channel. Because if time doesn't exist, then this moment isn't the end of the video. It's the beginning of something else. A new awareness, a new perspective, a new way of seeing yourself in this strange, timeless universe. Thank you for being here, for thinking deeper, for questioning reality, for stepping beyond the illusion. I'll see you in the next exploration, not in the future, not in the past, but right here, in the eternal now.